Welcome, IT changemakers, to the DEX Show with Tim Flower and Tom McGraw. Let's get into it.
You know what it is, everybody. It's the DEX show within a show within a show. And it feels like quite a special occasion today, a special occasion episode for two principal reasons. And the first of them is that last week, as many listeners will have noticed, Gartner released the first ever DEX Tool Magic Quadrant. Really, I think, kind of momentous moment in the history of the space that we cover here on the DEX Show. And we have a guest who is perfect to speak to the theme and tell us about it and tell us what's significant about it. But it's also a special occasion for me to have this guest on the show, because I would say nobody in my career has had a bigger influence on it. I've worked with Andrew Robertson, Senior Director of Analyst Relations now for about 10 years, as he might say, for better or worse. And I would describe Andrew as something as a mentor to me. So it's a great pleasure to welcome him to the show. Hey Andrew, how you doing?
Hey Tom, nice intro. Thank you very much.
My pleasure. And look, congratulations. You know, you are, as I said, Senior Director of Analyst Relations. So no doubt the last few weeks have been tense, but ultimately very, very rewarding for you, as they have been for every Nexthinker, right?
Absolutely. And it's not just 2 weeks. I mean, this has been something that we've been working with both Gartner and other analysts for 5-6 years now. So it's the culmination of a lot of work, massive kind of team effort. So yeah, tired but absolutely rewarding.
Don't believe him, ladies and gentlemen. He does 2 weeks work a year at most, and otherwise it's offline the whole time. I mean, it's not, analyst relations isn't the only thing you do at Nexthink. In fact, Andrew, you have a team who make many significant contributions. So why don't you introduce yourself and what it is you guys take care of for the listeners?
Sure. So as you say, I've got two hats at Nexthink. I'm with Nexthink coming up on 6 years, based out of Dublin. So first of all, as you say, I lead the analyst relation team. So we work with analysts such as Gartner, Forrester, many others, making sure they're up to date on everything that we're doing. But more importantly, probably feeding back their insight into the product teams on product strategy, the executive teams on overall company strategy. And then secondly, I lead the customer advocacy team. So the customer community is hugely important to us at Nexthink. So we're trying to build as strong a community as possible around everything we do. So we're running kind of global information sessions, regional events, user groups. We manage kind of peer reviews and reference calls. And we also support a really strong ambassador program where we provide a range of additional content, additional service to our most loyal and proactive kind of customers. And the good thing about both, Tom, is that they both functions integrate fully across all of Nexthink. So on the AR side, the analyst side, we're working very closely with the exec team, with product management, with product marketing, and then on customer advocacy, working with yourselves, your team, Tom, around content, with the field team, with customer success. So anywhere there's a customer touch point, we're dialed into that. So I think they sit really well together.
Fantastic, and we'll hopefully have a little bit of time to touch upon some of those other interesting functions and their relevance to the sort of wider space. But in the meantime, we've got a queue of Reality Bytes. We've got Oriana, Sean, and Dina with us today, all kind of queuing up to want to talk about the major milestone at hand, which is, as I've said, the Magic Quadrant. So I think I hand it over to Dina to ask the first question specifically on that front.
Hi, Andrew. It's been a significant year for digital employee experience in terms of market recognition and awareness. Let's start with the Gartner Magic Quadrant, which was officially released just last week. What's the significance of this first Magic Quadrant in your view, and what does it tell you about where the market is right now?
So short answer, really significant, Dina. I mean, the Magic Quadrant is a really important milestone in the evolution of any market, not just DEX, because it's providing, third-party evaluation, validation of the space from a really well-known, probably the largest analyst out there, big brand, great trust level, And if you think of Nexthink, we've created this space, this market. We've been telling the world about DEX, and now Gartner have stepped in and like Forrester before them, have said this market exists, it's happening right now, and that they're telling their clients they need to understand and address DEX in their organizations right now, not in the future. I think the other thing, Dina, that's important is that this is not an arbitrary assessment. So it has the Gartner brand, the Gartner trust level behind it. And, they put a lot of resources into this. They had a really large team of VP level analysts involved in the project. They drilled down into 15 different evaluation criteria. They looked at peer reviews. They looked at client inquiries. They looked at social media analytics to probably make the most informed decision yet about the DEX market. So I think the importance is it means the market, it's reached a level of maturity. Of course, there's still opportunity for significant growth, but the time for DEX is now. Now is the time to act. So of course, that's great news for Nexthink.
And I'm going to interrupt just for a moment to say it was lovely to see the DEX show itself, everybody, get a shout out in the Magic Quadrant report. That was wonderful. So shout out to Dan Wilson, who we all know from the events and know tunes in sometimes. We appreciate it very much.
No, I think Tom Dan is one of your most loyal listeners. He's always referencing, the work on Reality Bytes, but also the work, yourself and Tim are doing. So I'd say he's probably your number one listener.
What a number one listener to have. We're very grateful. Sorry, Dina, cut you up there.
Amazing fan club. That's great. So can you tell us about Nexthink's placement in the quadrant and what stood out to Gartner and what stands out to you in turn as well?
Sure. So I guess it's an easy question to answer in a sentence. So it went really well for us. Anyone that's seen the quadrant will see that, we were the clear leader on both axes. So in ability to execute, so our product quality, our competitiveness, our revenue impact, but also a clear leader in the completeness of vision axes. So that's your market understanding, ability to innovate, overall vision. And of course, most importantly, we were the absolutely clear leader overall. So in terms of what stood out to Gartner, we scored kind of great everything, everywhere. But I'll say that again. So in terms of what Gartner saw, they scored us really well everywhere. But two things in particular stood out to them. One was the Nexthink product, so the Infinity platform, the fact that it's highly scalable, extensible, the level of integration that we offer, and they flagged the pace of innovation, the new feature rollout, how we're continuing to kind of improve. And then they also called out our overall market understanding. So the fact that we were first to market, the understanding we have of extending the platform through those integrations, extending DEX with DAP, for an example. And they mentioned our AppLearn acquisition. And for me, it was all about just no ambiguity. It's amazing if you look at any kind of Magic Quadrants or any analyst evaluation, there's always some level of kind of ambiguity. There's vendors that will appear kind of stronger in some areas than others. So it's really unusual to see one vendor so clearly ahead on all criteria. And that was really kind of gratifying for us in Nexthink. So that was kind of my key takeaway. There's no ambiguity about this.
It's the clarity in leading the market. I think this is what made Nexthink stand out.
Absolutely.
In all the different aspects, and saying that from customers' perspectives as well, knowing that we created the category and leading it, I think this gives us a lot of accreditation now. So a few weeks earlier, we had another reason to celebrate with the Forrester Wave. So this one wasn't a first Forrester, where they have been covering DEX or end user experience management, as it's known to them, for several years. Could you share more about our placement there? And again, what stood out to both to Forrester in this one and to us in return?
Of course. And I think, what you say, Dina, about our history with Forrester, this is, not the first DEX wave that they've done. So I think that's kind of important. So, they did the first one 2 years ago, 2022. And we performed very well. We were a clear leader then. And I think we reviewed that afterwards, and really we saw it as a kind of challenge. What do we do now? All the other vendors are probably looking and saying, right, they're there to be kind of taken. We now have the opportunity to close the gap to kind of Nexthink. Shortly after that, we rolled out the Nexthink platform. So we were rolling out a new platform. We were transitioning our entire customer base. So I'm sure for an outsider looking in, they must have thought, now is the time, Nexthink are probably vulnerable. But actually the reverse was true. And when the wave came out, a month ago from Forrester, we've actually increased our lead across all the other vendors. So like Gartner, we were leading on both axes, both in terms of the current offering, our product, but also in terms of strategy. So the vision, the roadmap, the partner kind of ecosystem, and like Gartner, clear space between ourselves and the other leaders in the report. No ambiguity, which is kind of so important for a client kind of looking at this. It's very, very clear. As you say, it's all about kind of clarity. And I think, Forrester, they called out overall, beyond just the vendors, they called out the importance of a number of different factors in DEX going forward. So they say to clients, you need to go for the deepest and most holistic kind of DEX. So you need wide visibility across all your endpoints, all your applications, all your network. You need to be quick. You need to get to value quickly. So more data is not what you want. You want actionable insight. So they scored that as very high, very important for clients. And finally, they talked about automation at scale. So DEX is now maturing. People are beginning to start their DEX journey. And very quickly, they're seeing, I can't just do reactive troubleshooting. I've got to do this at scale. I've got to begin automating. And I think, Forrester called us out on all of those things. They called out the breadth and depth of our services, how we get customers to value quickly and effectively. And I think overall, what was really gratifying was that over the 2 years, we've actually extended our lead. So like the Gartner, both of them together, very consistent in where they place Forrester, and really clear, and we're delighted with the result.
I have a follow-up question to that. So you're highlighting a lot of, I think, very interesting ideas that sort of define DEX today. And I'm wondering, are there any other sort of common themes that you notice, especially between Gartner and Forrester, and maybe how that would stand out to you in terms of what is different, what is the same, in terms of what they're recognizing, highlighting both at Nexthink and as like critical to DEX? And maybe you could also give us like a nutshell summary of the overall performance of Nexthink across those two reports if you had to compare them.
Sure. So I think, as I said, both Gartner and Forrester, was amazing how consistent they were. I mean, there was very little deviation between them in terms of how they see the overall market, how they see individual vendors, how they see, Nexthink. If I had to take a couple of kind of consistent takeaways from both of them, probably that idea of an holistic approach. There's both saying, don't think kind of features. To do DEX well, you can't just pick off a couple of features. You need to do all of DEX well. You need that kind of holistic approach. And they both speak about the need to be kind of strategic. When you start off on your DEX journey, maybe you're thinking of just being reactive. How do I troubleshoot, react to things as they happen? And both Nexthink, I'll start that again. So both Forrester and Gartner are saying, being reactive, that's okay to begin with, but you really need to start scaling now to being kind of proactive. I think overall, the great thing about both the Wave and the MQ is that it forces you to think beyond, just product. Who has got the product offering? Everyone is obsessed about, features and bells and whistles. But both the Wave and the MQ, because they're across multiple dimensions, they're really forcing, people entering the DEX space for the first time, looking to invest in a solution, to think beyond the product. So obviously, it's just the starting point, the product. So you need to think, are these vendors resourced to support me? Do they have the momentum? Do they have the roadmap? Do they have the support infrastructure? Do they have the partner ecosystem? I'm starting off on a journey. Can this vendor kind of help me? And I think that's what both the MQ and the Wave are really good at doing. They identify, the best products out there, but they're also identifying those vendors that can really help you on that journey, get you to value, guide you as you go. So I think the summary from both of them is, of course, you have to have, best in class product, but you have to have the ability to execute and deliver value on top of that.
That's such a great point. Can you tell us a little bit more about some of the specific elements beyond the product itself? Because I know our technical services and support received a lot of well-deserved recognition. Do you think that the growing emphasis on more sort of holistic services by vendors indicates maturity or maturing of DEX overall? And can you talk a little bit more about why that's important to customers of DEX?
Of course, really interesting question, because anyone that's looked at the Gartner MQ will see that it's quite a strange shape. It's unusual for an MQ in that normally you'll have your leaders top right, but then you'd expect a host of kind of challengers top left that maybe don't have the longer term kind of vision and momentum, but actually are executing today and can deliver today. What was strange about the DEX MQ was that space was empty. There were no kind of challengers. And I think what it says to us is that Gartner is saying that really there's a lack of execution capability in the market today. Sure, it's quite a new market, but it's still kind of maturing. And while there's a lot of different products out there, that empty box top left is telling us that really there's a lack of maturity in terms of how vendors are supporting their customers, delivering after sale kind of service, and managing them on that journey that I mentioned earlier on. So I think again that's what both analysts called out around Nexthink, our ability to manage that journey with the customers. So identifying your start point, understanding your direction of kind of travel, prioritizing your progress, benchmarking your kind of performance. You don't need a product vendor to do that. You really need a partner or a trusted strategic advisor to do that. And I think from our side, if you talk to any of our customer facing kind of folk, they're always consistent in saying we're not selling kind of quick wins. We want to deliver value consistently. It's a long journey. You're not going to solve DEX overnight. So really, working with Nexthink, you want value delivered consistently at every stage as you go.
Andrew,
Agreed.
am I up? Cutting in. You can cut that part out. Andrew, how's it going? Sean here.
Hey, Sean, how you doing?
Good. I have a couple questions for you, but first, I know this has been a big summer for you with the work you put in. You did hire Tom and I a couple years ago. I think that probably was your biggest success, but this comes in a close second. So congratulations with everything.
I think they're kind of up there together, Sean.
Yeah.
I mean, I hired you once. I made the mistake of hiring Tom twice. So obviously, very good decisions. Delighted with them both, and this is up there with them, definitely.
Well, now we have a second Reality Bytes for next week. Thank you. Okay. So, Andrew, I'm curious. You've been working, at Nexthink for a couple of years in the topic of digital employee experience. In your view, is 2024 the tipping point for DEX? And where do you think the industry needs to go next to kind of capitalize on this and sustain the momentum?
Yeah, good question, Sean. I'm not sure it's the tipping point 2024. I think it's obviously a hugely important milestone having both Forrester and Gartner be all over this space. But I think it's a progression. I mean, we've all been working in Nexthink for some time now. We know we've put many years of work into this. Both Gartner and Forrester talk about ongoing 20% growth in the market. So I think this has been happening for some time. Nexthink, obviously, as category creator, has been at the forefront of that. So I don't think it's necessarily the tipping point. I think it's, as I said earlier, really kind of important milestone in the progression. I think both Forrester and Gartner, they are tier one analysts. They are well ahead of anything that anyone else is doing in the DEX space in terms of their analysis. They will get eyeballs. They will get viewership. I think it's going to bring a lot of people to the DEX space for the first time. So yes, it's going to definitely kind of drive the momentum. How do we take advantage of that momentum? Well, I think it's probably what we're doing in Nexthink. We've been focused for a long time, especially with the launch of the Infinity kind of platform. It's not just about features, but it's not about more data. It's not about more granular troubleshooting. It's about big picture. It's about being kind of strategic, incorporating AI into what we do, allowing people to solve problems before they occur. And I know you guys have touched on this topic a good few times, around the service desk. The minute that someone makes that call to the service desk, you've lost. And really everything about DEX and everything that we're trying to do around DEX is to eliminate that call kind of completely and to move people as early as possible, be very strategic, identifying problems really, really quickly in the cycle. So I think that's That's one big thing that we need to continue doing to carry on the kind of the momentum. I think the work we've done after the AppLearn acquisition and introducing kind of DAP as a key component of DEX is hugely important and was recognized by Gartner and the MQ as well. So I think we're going to see, DAP playing or digital adoption playing a significant role in the future of DEX. So it's not enough that an application is performant and is online. You have to get your employees, using the service, understanding the service, becoming power users. That's going to be a key part of DEX in the future. And I think overall final point on this would be, we keep talking about EUC, the end user computing space. DEX, I think the future of DEX is much broader than that. So we're already seeing, we're having conversations, much more widely across our customer organizations at a business level, whether that be at HR, CIO, or even up to kind of CEO level. So I think if we can keep the momentum going, then I think we'll see that transition from DEX being viewed as very much an EUC thing to being a company-wide thing in the future.
Lovely. And that transitions quite nicely to my final question. So I know analyst relations isn't the only area you and your wonderful team oversee. I know that you also work with a user group program in the DEX user community for Nexthink. Could you just give a quick overview of those projects and explain how existing customers can get involved and why it's important?
Of course. And as I mentioned at the start, so customer advocacy is the other hat that I wear in Nexthink. So we made a decision a couple of years ago that, obviously the community is hugely important to us. There's a lot of knowledge in our customer base. We'd love to get them kind of sharing with each other. The long-term goal for a strong community, I think we'd love to be, like an Oracle or like a ServiceNow, where we're not involved at all, that customers are running their own kind of independent communities, learning and sharing tips and tricks. We're not quite there yet, but that's definitely the goal within Nexthink. So we're kind of doing that on a number of fronts. We're trying to get our customers together first and foremost, whether that's virtually on a kind of weekly technical kind of call, whether that's physically. We do regional user groups around the world globally. We obviously, have these experience events at the end of the year. So we're doing a lot to try and get our customers together, get them, talking, get them learning from each other. And it's amazing when you go to these events and you might see a new Nexthink customer or even a Nexthink prospect talking to someone that has been using Nexthink for 4 or 5 years, and the amount of knowledge that's flowing kind of back and forth. It's incredible to see. That's what we really want to, promote within kind of Nexthink. We're running, as I mentioned, an ambassador program. So we ask all of our customers to become Nexthink ambassadors, and we give them, early access to content, to the executives, to our product. We run, special sessions around DEX, but also around wider EUC and wider kind of technical kind of leadership kind of topics as well. So on a number of fronts, we're trying to get our customers, together. The benefit for us at the end of the day, and you guys will know this more than anyone, is that, they are more likely to want to tell their stories, and obviously third-party customer content is so much more compelling than anything that we, great though we are going to put together within Nexthink. So we have a small team, but we're running kind of globally. We're running both virtual and physical events. Any opportunity we can to work with, the sales facing parts of Nexthink, customer success, field marketing, to bring our customers together, to help them, give them early access, and build that community. And I think that community will be fundamental to our success going forward.
It's such a good note to end the conversation on, because that community is such a vibrant one, right? Like if you talk to customers, if you attend any of your events, nobody's phoning it in, vis-a-vis lively occasions. A lot of people bring a lot of good ideas and a lot of good connections and even relationships are made there. And, it's a key component of what DEX is, which is, a movement, right? This is what the MQ indicates. It's what the Wave indicates. It's not just a marketing concoction. It's not just a space that somebody's trying to create to make money. It's a genuine movement within IT, which is, I think, at the moment, at the absolute forefront of it. So I want to just sort of end the conversation by saying congratulations to everybody who's a part of it, right? From the customers who use Nexthink or use a competitor organization, who are committing their resources, their time to improving experience of their organizations, and of course, congratulations to our friends Andrew Hewitt at Forrester, to Dan Wilson at Gartner, and to everybody behind those reports. And last but not least, to every Nexthinker, certainly including yourself, Andrew. It was great to have you on and to discuss this milestone today. It was I think, an important episode to do, and thanks for making the time.
Thanks, Tom. Really enjoyed it.
To make sure that you never miss an episode, subscribe to the show in Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your favorite podcast player. And if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, make sure to leave a rating of the show. Just tap the number of stars you think the podcast deserves. If you'd like to learn more about how Nexthink can help you improve your digital employee experience, head over to nexthink.com. Thank you so much for listening. Until next time.